Great. Thank you, Tracy. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this 11th annual UH Breakthrough Innovation Challenge. I'm Sandra Fujiyama, Executive Director of PACE. I'll be your MC for this event. This evening, we're celebrating innovation and the great minds at the University of Hawaii. I'm delighted that so many of you have decided to join us on this online platform. To prevent disruption to the competitors and judges, all audience members are muted, but please feel free to make comments in the chat feature. Later in the program, while the judges are deliberating, you'll have a chance to meet the competitors and ask your questions. So please stick around for that. At this time, I also want to let you know that this event is being recorded and will be posted for viewing on YouTube on our YouTube channel. When PACE created the Breakthrough Innovation Challenge, it was with the intent to uncover all the great work and innovation that was happening across all campuses, colleges, departments, and schools within the UH system. We think the challenge has done that, as over the years, we've been able to meet so many brilliant students from disciplines like engineering, computer science, molecular bioscience and bioengineering, fashion design, agriculture and soil science, food science, ocean engineering, and many other fields of study. We have our partners at the various other units to thank for our ability to reach across disciplines. For this year's challenge, we're pleased to be hosting it in partnership with the College of Engineering and the William S. Richardson School of Law. We put representatives from our partner units to work by asking them to help determine our finalists. Thank you, Song Choi from the College of Engineering and Justin Levinson from the School of Law. On behalf of myself and my boss, the Dean of the Scheidler College of Business, Vance Rowley, thank you for representing your units and for being great champions for us across campus. I'd also like to thank Dean Rowley for being supportive of PACE and our mission. We're able to continue to develop the programs that we feel are vital to grow young entrepreneurs with Dean Rowley's support. Tonight, you'll be hearing presentations by 3 finalists. Each finalist was matched with business professionals who volunteered their time and knowledge to coach these contestants. Marco, Asaf, Dave, Chris, and John, thank you for devoting your time and knowledge to help these students take their ideas to the next level. We appreciate you leaning in to grow the next generation of local entrepreneurs. Challenges like this make a difference in these students' lives. They come up with innovative solutions to life's problems and challenges. It's not an easy task, but it's a fulfilling experience for the participants to think critically about how their innovation can make an impactful difference in our world. Tonight is really just the beginning of their entrepreneurial journey. Every fall semester, we put the word out about this challenge across campus. The purpose is to expose students to entrepreneurial thinking and to bring recognition and attention to their unique business ideas. In October, the contestants were tasked with submitting a 2-minute video that describes their idea. After a first round of review, a short list of finalists was determined. We then matched each finalist with their coaches to help prepare them for this final event. I am impressed by their innovative solutions, as you will hear for yourself in their presentations. Now to the competition. Our finalists will have 7 minutes to present, and then there will be 10 minutes of questions from the judging panel. Judges, please hold your questions until each presentation is over. Audience members, you will have time to ask questions too. That will come at the end of all the presentations when the judges are deliberating. The finalists are competing for these prizes. $5,000 will go to the first place winner. It's a cash prize, and they will also get automatic entry to the semifinal round of PACE's UH Venture competition next spring. There's a $2,500 second place cash prize and a $1,000 third place cash prize. So first up, we have Raphael Gassel Sinclair. He's a technology licensing officer with the UH Office of Technology Transfer. Hi, Raphael. Next, we have Kelly Holden. She's a marketing faculty member at the Scheidler College of Business. Hi, Kelly. Next, we have Rich Matsuura, Vice President of Product with Dispatch. Hi, Rich. And rounding out our panel, we have Catherine Tashner, Deputy Director with the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Land Management. Hi, Kat. You can read their full bios on the challenge website. Thank you, judges, for joining us on this panel. So Tracy, one of the wonderful program managers at PACE, is helping us keep time today. She will let you know when your time is up. We will be strict with time limits for your presentations and also with the judges with their questioning. Our first finalist is Project Galilee, presented by Austin Sinclair. Austin, please share your screen.
First part.
This is what saved us all.
Now, that might just be Hollywood fiction, but what if it was real? What if there was actually a way to end hurricanes? And what if I also told you that you're looking right at it? Hey, I'm Austin Sinclair, and this is Project Galilee. Project Galilee's main goal is to de-escalate hurricanes and reduce their impact on coastal communities. As you know, hurricanes cause billions of dollars in damage every year, not to mention the loss of life. I would hope to mitigate this issue with hurricane drones. These drones would go into the hurricane and strip it of its moisture, which it uses as fuel, therefore weakening it. How about those drones? Well, they're 9 feet tall, 3 by 3 feet wide, weigh 500 pounds, have a battery capacity of 100 kilowatt hours. It should stand up to winds of 200 miles an hour. To the right, you see the running design I have so far. Now, what about their other capabilities? Well, one drone should be able to empty a hurricane of around 3,000 gallons of water in an hour, and a whole swarm should be able to downgrade a hurricane by 2 to 3 categories in about a day. These drones are also capable of weather data collection with inbuilt instruments such as wind meters, barometers, thermometers, and moisture data collectors. But how about the main technology? How does that work? Well, to the right, you see basic dehumidifier technology. That consists of an evaporator and a condenser. But down here, you see what's more akin to Galilee tech. You see there's only a condenser. So why don't we need the evaporator? Well, that's because the hurricane already does that job for us. You see, all a drone needs to do is suck in all of the already evaporated water and condense it so that the hurricane can't use it as fuel. But how will a drone know where to go? Well, that's where the software comes in. We'll use software similar to drone shows. On the right, you see an example of a drone show and its software. But Galley software would have a geopositional data on the hurricane, and on the drones themselves, you have radar, sonar, GPS, gyroscopes, and radio, so that the drone is precisely where it needs to be when it needs to be there. Right here is a possible drone layout. You see it's where the clouds are thickest and the eye wall, so that it can get the most water out of the hurricane. Marketing business strategy, that's always fun. How about the target market? What is it? Well, that's cities, countries, states, weather agencies, really anyone who can benefit from either studying or weakening a hurricane. How about the competition though? Well, direct competition? There is none. Galley would be the only offensive solution on the market. Everything else is defensive, which brings us to indirect competition. That's the defensive measures like coastal reinforcements, seawalls, pumps, jetties, levees, dams, stormwater systems, things like that. As you could probably tell from the last slide, we'll have 100% of the market share for at least the first few years, since I'm literally creating the market. I did basic calculations for profitability. I'd like to get the drones built for around 2,500 per unit, and they should make 3 million per lifespan, which is a pretty good profit margin. But even with all that, why buy a Project Galilee swarm? Well, simple answer, why not? Less simple answer, to protect your community from the impact of a potentially deadly and costly hurricane. Just business statement. But what about that cost? Well, let's take Hurricane Katrina, for example. That one cost $81 billion, and in total, cost almost $160 billion. The price to hire a Galilee drone swarm would be somewhere around $2 to $5 million, maybe a little bit more. But even though, that's still pocket change compared to the price of an actual hurricane hitting you. Here's my business plan, split into 4 phases. First one's funding prototype and trial runs. I'm in the funding stage currently. Phase 2, public proof of concept and publicity in general. It's like public statements and stuff. Phase 3, that's when you rent out the drone swarms to the actual cities and states that need them. And of course, phase 4 is keep innovating. I think I have a little bit of time left, so I'll pull your attention to the key partners here. I'd hope to partner with Tesla for the batteries, NOAA for their satellite imagery and radar, and then maybe someone from last year, Blue Energy, for portable charging solutions on the drones, since, you know, the grids aren't always going to be 100%. That's it. Thank you. Feel free to ask any questions.
Great. Thank you, Austin. Interesting idea. Yes. So we'll go to the judges.
I can.
Hi, it's Rafael. You know, Austin, I think you're really onto something here. And I know to some folks this may sound outrageous, but I don't think it is.
At least one of you thinks it's a joke.
No, it's not a joke. How familiar are you with Project Storm Fury or with Salter Sinks?
I haven't heard of any of those.
Okay, it's probably because you're young. Back in the early 1960s, for about 20 years, from 62 to maybe 83, don't quote me on those numbers, I'm just going on memory here. But back then, NOAA carried out some experiments with a project called Storm Fury, in which scientists, they would seed the eye of hurricanes with silver iodide to see if they would form ice crystals and weaken the hurricane's strength and intensity. However, back then they were flying C-130 military aircraft into the eye of the hurricane. And you can imagine flying a whole bunch of these planes into a hurricane, they probably crashed into each other. But anyway, the project was not successful. And let's go to 2010. There was a company called Intellectual Ventures. Have you ever heard of them?
I might have.
No.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, they came up with the idea of deploying thousands of large devices that they called Salter Sinks. And what they would do is they would take hot water from the surface, warm water from the surface of the ocean, bring it down to where the cooler water is, maybe 500 feet down, and send it back up to weaken the hurricane. Similar principles to what you're trying to do here with these drones, but I think your drones would be much more economical and a lot safer. So anyway, in your example, you mentioned Hurricane Katrina. Well, Hurricane Katrina was a huge storm. It had hurricane force winds like 200 miles from the center of the hurricane. So that's about an area of 125,000 square miles.
There's going to be a lot of drones.
How big a swarm would you need to cover an area of 125,000 square miles in order to reduce a hurricane like Katrina from a Cat 5 to a Cat 3?
lucky guess, 20,000.
20,000? Well, even then, that's relatively cheap, because what's that come up to? $5 million?
With
$50
something
million?
that size, I mean,
Yeah.
let me get to the price. I don't know, maybe around 6-7 million. I
Okay.
mean,
All right,
you
so
know,
very cost effective, considering that it costs $160 billion worth of damage. So I
I'm
think
trying to
you're,
get it as cheap as
Mhm. So I think you're really onto something here. Have any companies or any agencies, have you talked with them about this? Have they shown any interest?
Or
Or
not
am I the
yet.
only one excited about it?
One of my coaches was definitely excited about it.
Mhm.
He's talked to FEMA, I think, about it.
Mhm.
I don't know if he's heard back yet. I believe he was talking to NOAA as well.
Okay, good. Those are two good customers. Okay, good. And how long do you think it might take before you're able to get an actual working prototype? Would you
Well,
say?
a prototype shouldn't take very long. In
Okay.
fact, if I win, I'm gonna try and use whatever money I get to actually build a prototype, maybe a testing chamber for it.
Oh, wow. Good. Okay, I don't have any more questions. I don't want to hog up the 10 minutes, so someone else can ask some questions.
Um, Hi, Austin. I have a quick question for you, and then I'll hand off to Rich. You discussed the target market and your competition, and you talked to your target market that, and I think it's a great idea. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot of cities and countries and communities that would need this. Hurricanes are a problem globally,
Mhm.
but when we think about our target market, we've got to narrow it down. Even if really, if we think about water, everybody needs water to drink, but we got to
Mhm.
target who we're going to sell that water to, right? Or
Mhm.
what have you. So, have you thought about how you're going to define, we call that beachhead, that first
Mhm.
primary target market? Who would you really look to try to sell this to?
I think that would be. I think I would focus in on the state markets first, like state governments,
Okay.
because going international is a whole nother can of worms. So I'd start in the US, rent it out to a few states that are about to get hit by hurricanes, try it out, then go global.
I think that's really smart. So something to just think about as you further progress down the road is really defining those target markets. Are they states? Are there even organizations like NOAA, things like that as well, that you may want to reach out to and partner with? And really think about nailing down your timelines, because you have a first mover
Mhm.
position, but quite quickly you are going to have competitors hounding you, right? So you've
Mhm.
got to take advantage of that first mover if you're going to launch. So you
Mhm.
really got to nail down those pieces. So something to think about.
Patents will be very important
Mhm.
in this journey here.
Mhm.
Let me throw a really quick couple of questions to you, Austin. So one, I appreciate your boldness here. I mean, this is world changing. Right? If you pull this off, this is fantastic. Actually, from my perspective, I wouldn't even care what market you're going after. If you get this works, you're going to be a billionaire. Right? So this is huge. So what my biggest questions here, and I think if you're going to be talking to investors, you said you're going to go into fundraising here. The biggest questions I think you're going to have is just around, can this work? And I think one of the things you're going to, let me just ask you this. Do you have anybody from the scientific community or anybody who's kind of vetted that, if you kind of pulled this together with this many drones, that this would actually work?
I haven't talked to anyone yet. I'm hoping to do that in the next stage of things. I mean, it's purely a concept at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that would be fantastic. I mean, getting somebody to just kind of be behind this that has those credentials, I think would be huge for you to get that first round of funding that you're looking for. Another question is so you talk about phase one as a prototype. I think two things you got to prove here. One is you could build this thing that would actually withstand a hurricane, because I'm thinking just Mother Nature is so powerful. To build something that would actually withstand a hurricane, that would be, I think, needing to prove that that would work. And then two, will it actually condense water from the air at the rate that you're saying that you need it to do? Do you have kind of ideas on how you would test that in your prototype and your proof of concept in phase 2?
Yes, I do have ideas of how to test it. So first, I would build a small scale prototype, maybe like say this high, and then fill a glass box with water vapor and see how fast it can suck all the water vapor out of the air in the box and onto the floor. So it just has some initial tests and then go from there.
Great. So I'll pass over to Catherine here.
Hopefully I answered your question. You were a little hard here.
Yep.
Hi, Austin. Love the idea. I can totally see how this would be a huge thing. I mean, hurricane season is so scary for so many of us who live along the ocean. And so I do think, to echo what a lot of the judges have said, like this could be huge. I kind of wanted to learn a little bit more about who you are. What's your background? Are you you mentioned that you're going to build the prototypes. Are you like an engineering type? Sounds like there's some heavy software components to this. Are you a software guy? Are you like the marketing business guy? Are you kind of wearing all different hats? What's your background?
Well, I'm an ideas man. I come up with ideas. This is what I do. And yeah, I can do business pretty well. I've always been good at business. Design is a strong point for me. I have a friend that can do software, which is good. Also 3D modeling, which will be helpful. I did these.
Cool. Yeah. So I was curious to see, what your background was, and I think picking up some teammates, who really, and picking up people who can really help you prove that proof of concept, right? They can show that the model works. They can maybe do some initial coding to, kind of actually show that this idea really could take flight. You might want to get that, because I think the more people you can get to buy into this and the more credibility you can add to it, the easier it is going to be for you to go and fundraise. One other question I had was, so once you have this kind of, what's like, initially you're going to build these products and then you're going to rent them out. Is that the concept? And is that where you're going to generate a lot of the business income on the going forward basis?
Yes. At first, I was thinking of maybe just selling the drones to the States, but then I thought that market would get saturated far too quickly to be really that profitable in the long run. So I went with the renting type thing.
So they would pay you like a annual fee to continue using it. What about maintenance or kind of ongoing operational questions? Who would be responsible for that?
So let's see how the payment works. At least the idea so far is, say there's a hurricane coming, then you pay me a certain amount and I go out with as many drones that are needed and get rid of the hurricane for you. There's no, currently I'm not really thinking of a subscription service, but that might be a good idea.
Just something to think about. I'm curious to see, moving forward, what the business structure is going to look like, because I think that's going to impact, what kind of partners you look for. So just something to think about as you continue to grow and innovate.
Thank you, judges. Thanks, Austin. That's time.
Thank you.
So our second finalist is Model C. The idea will be presented by Amir Ghanem and Mohammed Sharif. Please go ahead.
Yes. Hello, everyone, and thank you. And thank you for attending our presentation for Model C. Model C stands for Modeling, Optimization, Design, Environment, and most important, the cost. Our team is myself, Mohammed Sharif, and my colleague is Amr Gharim. We are PhD students in the in the construction and environmental engineering department and the University of Hawaii at Manoa. Model C is an innovative construction technology business model that integrates new revolutionary technology in construction industry using an algorithm that optimizes the construction design process. I'm very sorry, my PC. Here we go. Use an algorithm that Model C is an innovative construction technology business model that integrates new revolutionary technology in construction industry using an algorithm that optimizes the construction design process and decreases its environmental impact. And that summarizes that ultimate objective that our research and industry experience works on every day. Our slogan is applying machine learning and streamlines the design process, maximizing efficiency, reducing costs, and promoting green building practices. Our project is developed and we were able to use it, as you will see in the following slides. Our problem: construction industry is not cost efficient due to material waste in the design process and time waste in the negotiation process. Also, low care to environmental sustainability appear in different construction projects. To solve these problems, we introduced the Model C approach based on optimization and the machine learning technology. It provides a design process to reach the most efficient use of material and decrease material waste. It is an automated to reduce the coordination process and time waste. And finally, instead of using traditional concrete, we introduced new recycled plastic lightweight concrete that have a major impact in the environmental sustainability. The construction market is enormous. In 2021, for example, spending exceeded $700 billion per year, and this trend is increasing, especially for the residential sector, which shows the future opportunity to adopt our algorithm. As you can see in these photos, in most of the cases, the buildings are systematic, which means that all apartments are with the same design. So if we optimize one apartment, that could be representative for the whole building. And this is not just an innovative idea, but we have already started implementing this algorithm and tested its efficiency on 11 different case studies. We conducted 11 case studies using actual design plans from completed projects that were shared with us from various architects. Here is a comparison between the 11 case studies using the traditional design process in the red columns versus using our optimized process in the blue columns. As you can see, our algorithm was able to reduce cost on every design. And here's a comparison between using traditional concrete in the blue bars and the recycled plastic lightweight concrete in the red bars. We can see that the recycled concrete not only shows a great reduction in terms of cost, but also achieved up to 17.8 saving in the environmental impact and 28.5% in the environmental impact reduction and 17.8% in the energy consumption. In terms of money, through combining the structure and environmental saving approach, our algorithm was able to achieve up to 30% saving, translated to $1,600 per meter square, or about $2 billion for typical residential buildings. In Hawaii, for example, there are new high-rise projects costing hundreds of millions of dollars. Potential saving for a $250 million building would be about $50 million. Our optimized process can save a huge amount of money, reduce time, help environment, and finally reduce the energy consumption. The novel idea can be summarized as following. The architect provides a conceptual architectural design, which is used in preparing an initial structure orientation. Then the model develops an approximate structural design for all structural elements. Then uses optimization algorithm to achieve optimized cost of the structural elements while maintaining the functionality of the architectural design. All this to reach a final design with optimum cost and environmental impact.
And here are essential ground rules that the algorithm is following. The overall floor area remains constant as the conceptual architecture design. The structure height remains constant. Only change in construction material that reflects on the environmental impact and the dimensions of the structure elements such as beams, slabs, or columns, which reflect on the overall cost of the structure. Next slide. Our business model mainly provide consultancy service to implement structural optimization for the cost and the environmental impact. Moreover, the revenue comes from a specific commission of 20% on the saved cost from the optimization and value engineering concept. This is a rough target revenue estimate of $500K US per month. For example, for case study number 1, we would get a commission of $25,000 US. And for case study number 11, this commission may reach $200K US. Our competitors can be concluded in the construction, modeling, and simulation companies, such as CSI and Autodesk. Now they are improving their modeling and simulation techniques and working toward reducing conflict between different disciplines. However, our business model advantage is that it provides a cost-optimized model besides simulation and 3D representation. It is more time efficient and less conflict. It considers the environmental impact as well as construction applicability and energy consumption. Market customers that we can provide our service are mainly the construction investors with more than $25 billion annually, construction project management firms and developers, where their primary focus is toward maximizing the revenue of the construction project and minimizing its environmental impact. Thank you so much.
All right. Really interesting idea, guys. I love the idea of using an algorithm and machine learning to try to make construction more efficient, because as you guys said, there's so much waste going on in building, not just materials and time, but money. So great idea. Really enjoyed it. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity here. I'm curious, though, have you thought about, so you certainly talked about some competitors, like there is other machine learning and sort of modeling concepts that are already out in the world that kind of refining. You gave a great explanation of how you're sort of your points of difference, right? Your and what you bring to the table. So what what stage are you at with it, with your kind of minimally viable product, and what's your timeline or your desired timeline to potentially get out to market? Kind of where do you guys think you are?
Actually, our algorithm is already developed. We have already implemented our algorithm on different projects where we were able of achieving up to 30% cost saving. Regarding the idea of integrating the markets, this is what we are working on right now. We have different approaches. What's differentiate between us and different companies, design companies, is that they give much attention to the design process itself and how much the structure would be safe, how much it would be applicable, but not the cost. The cost is a different issue which takes place in the contractor, which is a final stage of the design process. What we are trying to do is implementing the idea of the cost and how to achieve the optimum cost and environmental impact from starting from the design phase, not from the end of the design process.
Okay. And then before I hand off, I have one other question. So you talk about the environmental impact as well, which is really vital. We know across the board, no matter what we're doing, environmental impact is becoming more and more center and focused, even in small products being sold in retail areas. So of course, with construction and building, we think about like the lead design. So is this something where you would try to have the certificate, you basically would be thinking about those certifications in to say, like, if you use our machine learning, you can be assured that it would qualify for these types of certifications?
Exactly. We check the lead criteria, how they have their own criteria to make it environmental, the building environmental. And we would like, or we are trying to implement this in our system or in our algorithm. Right now, we are doing a research, even in our PhD, in using new green recycled material instead of the normal rocks aggregates. We implement or we use like more recycled material instead of these rocks to produce new concrete, which is considered as environmental. That's why we said it has like more environmental impact instead of using normal concrete. And this also helps in reducing the energy consumption while producing the normal concrete. So yes, and the LEED is one example of like a certification for your project. Exactly.
Great, really interesting. Nice work, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a quick question for you guys. I think, so I love what you're doing here. I think taking machine learning for something that's as complex as this, where you have so many factors, right? Material, you got weather, you got where you're actually building, you got constraints from the architect and things of that nature. We're getting to the point where if we want to optimize for environment and climate impacts and such, that it's beyond what a human could probably do. And so I think the machine learning here is the right direction to go, and you could do some awesome things. Question about some of the graphs and the data that you showed. Were those gains from just using I forgot the type of concrete. Was it the reusable type of concrete, recycled concrete, or was this actually from any kind of design, building design itself? What drove the gains?
Actually, the design itself of any building would achieve, up till now, on the 11 different case study, we were able to achieve up to 17.8% saving with the main design of the building, without the implementation of the environmental impact of the newly recycled plastic concrete. By integrating the new recycled plastic concrete, we introduced even plus 2% more, so it reached about 21% saving in the overall percentage of the overall cost of the building. But yes, any design is applicable on our algorithm, and it achieved a sufficient amount of cost saving.
And moreover, the next slide, you can show comparison between the normal concrete, the normal traditional concrete, and using of recycled green concrete we used. And you can see the orange bars is always less than the normal concrete.
Yeah. Okay. And so let me jump to another real quick question. You mentioned there's competitors in this space. I feel like the winner here is going, tell me if you think this is right or wrong, but I think if I'm thinking about who wins this, it's whoever's got the best data, whoever's got the best algorithms, the best modeling here. And I feel like the competition, so you got big teams working on this kind of stuff. Is that right? Do you think that's right? And if so, how do you compete inside of this market?
If we have a very big team working on this, working in our algorithm, we could have a very sufficient opportunity of even applying our algorithm on different projects and beating much more competitors. And we can also try to convince them how much our algorithm would be beneficial for every investor or different owners of the construction projects. So yes, it's the idea itself is that integrating this market would have a huge amount of work that needs to be done to overcome all the possible competitors.
Okay, I got another question, but I'm going to be passed to others first.
I have a quick question. Oh, sorry, Raphael, were you going to go?
No, go ahead. Go. You go.
Okay. I have a quick question. So I work at the Department of Land Management here at the City County of Honolulu, and we oversee all of, we do a lot of development, and I love the idea. I would love to be able to do things a lot cheaper, especially as we look to build affordable housing, or, it'd be great if we could streamline the process. One of the issues is it just takes forever, and because every site is a little bit different, right? And so I know one of your assumptions is that there is somewhat of a standard, in terms of size. One question I wanted to ask is how are you going to scale this project? I know at least locally, there's always local, building codes and ordinances that you have to follow. I also know that, for a lot of plans, it needs to be stamped by a licensed architect, right? As you continue to scale to other states or even internationally, what's your plan for that?
So right now, the code or the algorithm is working using the American code, but using the American code standards. So we are just following the steps for designing any kind of buildings. So right now it's working all over the US. but we can move it to the other countries by just changing this part of the code where we design or iterating the design using its own or the country specified like code or something. So this is how we can scale it to the outside USA, but right now it's working or based on the US code.
But you have plans to go international at some point.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Of
Very
course.
exciting. Good for you guys.
Because the code is already running, so I believe implementing it only in US is not something good, or we are downsizing the idea. So we're starting with US, but of course we are planning to move it forward to the other countries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Why did you decide to go to a commission-based fee scheme as opposed to charging for your actual services? I mean, isn't it a little bit more risky when you have fluctuations in prices of material, prices of energy? Why did you choose to do that?
The reason why actually the implementation of our algorithm itself is not very hard. The algorithm is already prepared, and we in less than 1 day we can have some sufficient results through any project. So the commission approach would be the appropriate one, because first of all it motivates new investors. The investor will already see the results before paying for what he want, and secondly it doesn't take a lot from us to implement the algorithm itself. So that's why we thought that the commission would be the right appropriate way. Also the idea of having a percentage out of the saving would be much more. Yes, sometimes it can be less, but sometimes lots of the construction project costs a lot. So yes, we think that commission part would be the most efficient way to gain our revenues back.
And it's like convincing the investor. We are making sure that you will gain some from using our code, and we just will take a percentage of it. So it's kind of helping us to convince him.
Okay. And besides using this for like buildings and housing type projects, can you also apply this to, say, building bridges or highways or other types of structures?
Actually, up to this stage, we were mainly concentrated on the residential buildings. It's a huge residential building, actually, because most of the construction projects are taking part in this part. But we are planning on trying to develop the algorithm even more to integrate the bridges and different type of structures.
Okay, good. Because I don't know if you're aware of it, but like H3 was one of the most expensive highway constructions projects in the US in terms of miles per cost. It costs like $80 million per mile just for the H3. So
Yes.
it could work there too.
Of course.
Absolutely.
I love Rafael's thinking there. If you could find a niche here, because so it feels like the building space is pretty, that's where people are going to be focusing these algorithms. And if you found a niche that others aren't focused on, you got a potential huge opportunity there. My last really quick question is, what prevents you from, so I love you did some unit testing on historical data and being able to show some of that, those gains that you made. What prevents you with that data? What prevents you from going to somebody right now and just having them try your product out for free? And is that in the near term here?
Actually, nothing. Actually, we have already implemented the algorithm on 11 different case studies. We are open on trying it even more on different bigger state projects. So no, I think we are ready to implement it on different projects.
Yeah, I believe we already finished, as I mentioned, the code itself. And now we are in a stage of marketing and trying this in real life and see if we could find some investors.
I'm curious to know how much your algorithm would save heart if you implemented it there.
Yes, I think a lot.
Thanks, judges. Thank you, Model C. That's time. So our third and last finalist is Abio, presented by Jason Long and Dylan Phillip. Please share your screen.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jason. It's my partner, Dylan, and we're going to present today on Abio. It's an app made to celebrate, remember, and share the lives that we've led. The idea of Abio, like many ideas, was born out of necessity. A few months ago, I was in a motorcycle accident, 40 miles down, low-sided, went under a truck, hit the curb, cracked my helmet, tore off my jacket. I had full gear. And while I wasn't really hurt physically, thank God, it kind of made me think, like, what if I didn't survive that? What would I really leave behind? And I just found out that I had nothing. Like, people would remember me by going onto my Instagram, which had this fish I caught a few years ago, or a gym pic or something. But there was really nothing that I wanted. I had a lot, and I didn't really feel like I had a place to put it. So we came up with the idea of Abio, and I shared it with many people around me. And I found that a lot of people shared the same kind of need for something like this. So for Abio, what our goal is to create a free mobile application for users to share their story. Abio kind of aims to pivot away from the short-term social media that kind of dominates the market right now, and for story in a way. So away from, what mimosa you had last night, or this is how I looked like at the gym this morning, or what Trump tweeted 20 seconds ago, but focus more on what you want to share, what you want people 20 years from now after you're gone to see and remember of you. And people can use this our app to reflect or to write, to heal. And Abio is kind of an app with several functions. You can use it to communicate one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-all. And we do this by having multiple privacy settings where you can set your profile not only to private, but to private for a few people, or to just one person even, if you really wanted to. And as you can see from the picture, we have multiple features as well, like timelines, memories, or just writing, which is, it's not on the picture right now, but it's basically, you can continuously write your story and edit it as you go along. So maybe it's like writing a memoir or an autobiography, and you can talk really deeply, something that you usually wouldn't do on, say, Facebook or Twitter, or definitely not Snapchat. But the solution, so this just goes in detail about the features that we'll have. So of course, the timeline, which many autobiographies have, is you can list out your life, the events that made it beautiful, the events that you want people to remember. You're allowed to time tag your photos, which is a pretty new idea that doesn't exist in like Instagram or Facebook, where instead of searching by hashtags or just geolocation, you can search by time posted. So say I want to know what happened 2008 in Beijing during the Beijing Olympics. I can search Beijing, and then I can time tag 2008, and I'll see everybody's post in Beijing at the time. So that way it's kind of creating a communal autobiography where users contribute to locations in their communities, and it just lasts throughout history. And it's not like I post today, tomorrow you're gonna have to like look into my profile and stalk me to find it, right? And journaling, as I said, continuously writing. Memories page, where it's other users can post directly onto your profile and post their favorite memories with you. It's similar to tagging, but it's much more visible and makes your profile more, I'd say, colorful, instead of just, having a tag on your picture. Hey, Dylan.
All right, now moving on to the market. So we have a few little aspects we want to address here. Now, first, looking at the map, this is representing worldwide social media users. Now, obviously, we're a social media app, and also obvious to all of you, social media is a giant industry. It is one so giant we didn't think it was important to show you, how much money. It's hundreds of $billion-dollar industry. Now, keeping that in mind, we're not going after hundreds of billions of people or hundreds of billions of dollars. What we're going after, going a little more specific, we're narrowing down to looking at 1 billion users. Now, looking at these people, we did some research based on looking specifically at how many people journal a diary, because it's central to this app. This app it's a writing app in a lot of ways. It's not just about writing, but a big part of it is that you're telling your story, and it honestly surprised both of us that so many people keep a diary or journal. And moving on, a little more narrow, our target audience is really specifically based on, we've also done a little bit of our own Google surveys and little trials here, and they're nothing that will give us enough real concrete evidence to really know until we do real market testing with advertising. But with our more specific target audience, we're looking at millennials around 25 to 40 who are, most importantly, an aging but tech-savvy population, which is never really existed until now. It's older people who are a little more partial to writing and who want to tell their story and want to leave something behind, not because they're on their deathbed, but because, of course, they could die tomorrow and they want to leave something behind that isn't just a gym pic or something else meaningless on Instagram to show off, right? Now, moving on to the competition. Now, in a lot of ways, we could say we don't have competition, but of course, that isn't really true. In a lot of ways, we are kind of our own differentiated app, but in a lot of ways, we are consolidating what a lot of our competitors do in different little ways. Now, time capsules, that's again one of our big features, and that's kind of just where you can write a future post to yourself. Timelines, of course, that exists on things we've seen. Facebook isn't on here, but and Blurb and Everlove for our more obituary kind of sites, just for reference. And now memories, these are all things that we're more used to. But it's surprising because most of our competitors in different spheres don't have the critical features we were looking for. So we thought we'd implement them all into one app.
Abio, thank you. That's time.
Thank you.
So the one thing I like about the idea here is I remember reading not too long ago that millennials are actually one of the first generations that are actually starting to plan their own funerals and such. But it's actually interesting that there is an opportunity there, and I think you might be onto that. I didn't catch how you're going to monetize, or maybe I missed
Yeah. So as far as the profit model, you want to take this one, Jason?
Yeah, I was just thinking because we talked a lot about the profit models, and there are a lot of potential from advertising, of course, to digital products to actual physical products. One of our competitors prints a PDF of their user's profile, and that charges $10 for each PDF, and just a PDF, no physical thing. They just email you a PDF of it. But after talking a bit to just not only mentors, but potential users and doing some research, we found that just a free app to first get users seemed like the best way to go. And that seems to be the case for a lot of other social media apps too, is that in the early days, there is no monetization pretty much. And it's more focused on creating a good user experience so that people will like this app. And the first thing they see isn't like, oh, I'm going to charge you, or I'm going to ask you to buy this or that, But we definitely have plans in the future for monetization.
Like, I could just add on to that really quick. The other big thing that another mentor meeting separate to the coaches that we were given, that I had personally, and Jason wasn't there. One of the biggest things that we kind of realized, and we're trying to shift our focus as far as pairing with what he just said about our profit models and kind of scrapping a couple of them, is simply that we were thinking about, what's the long term of this? Okay, this would be an app that would be presumably around for a long time because you're running your store, unless some people, you die tomorrow, whatever. But the majority of people, right, would be using this app for a long time, right? But the point is, I don't see myself, and I'm sure Jason didn't, we're not planning on necessarily, like there's this assumption here that, we come here with this idea and we'd want to be running this whole thing ourselves until the dust for 70 years. But one good little point as far as profitability was just simply that we are kind of shifting ourselves to have a focus on being bought out by companies like Ancestry.com and 21andMe. And that relates a lot to our newer adaptations and new focuses as far as like community and life. It's all about family trees, and I could dive more into that if you have any more questions on that, but I want to let you guys ask the rest of them.
I think in general, it's harder to raise money these days from just getting users without figuring out the monetization plan early. 10 years ago, you could do that. It's harder to do that now. The one thing, and I think the other challenge you run into is I don't think people are looking for this service and around social media for that. Like it's not something people are actively looking for. But I think there is an interesting opportunity here around planning services, and I think there's a ton of money around funeral planning services. And if that's first, and this is an add-on onto something like that, I think there's some legs into this whole idea and this concept that you're saying that people want to share this type of information. They want to have this legacy and be able to control it instead of other people building it afterwards. And again, you're touching that market that's actually doing that planning. So it feels like there's a potential opportunity there. So I like the overall direction. I'd love to see more monetization though. I'll pass on to whoever wants to go next.
Also, I'm just going to take on to your questions, Rich. So I agree. I think it's an interesting idea. So it made me actually also think about one, as Rich said, there's a lot of opportunity in this market of millennials in particular, kind of planning their end life stage, but also there are a lot of sort of ancillary competitors. The one that comes to mind to me is called Queepsake. And so that one is targeted to parents, if you haven't heard of it. And so they're set up to text you. You can identify how many times you want to be texted, once a day, once a week. And it encourages you to ask you questions about your kids. Right. And so it's like, what did your kid do today? And you post a picture. And so it essentially creates a memory board for your child. And then I can buy a photo album annually, or, so there's all these monetization opportunities for me to purchase, because of course, as a busy parent, I don't have time to be writing in a memory book for him or whatever, right? So similar kind of concepting where I want to write memories for myself and be able to look back on my life, or maybe it's that trip I want to memorialize, or all these different things. So I think you do have a lot of opportunities to potentially monetize in different ways. You were talking about a PDF, but I think there's a lot of organizations and companies that are looking at kind of larger pictures of, photo books, even large canvases, these types of concepts that you could consider. And so I'm just curious about your thoughts about that. Have you looked into any of those types of kind of ancillary competitors?
Yes. So I think a lot of what you just said, if not all, are a lot of things. So a lot of it we haven't thought of, but a lot of it we have. And the main reason we didn't reflect that in the presentation is simply because, especially our second mentor, he really roasted us for talking too much about the profit margin, about the profit model, right? And I was surprised about that. I thought, it's a startup. It's kind of important. We have healthy cash flows, right? Which is true. It's just, he wanted us to really focus on, right here, getting our beta out. That's the most important thing with a new app. And also pairing that with the fact that most apps, if you want to get any retainment, especially a new app, it has to be free, right? So given those two kind of assumptions, again, we have a lot of, we're a new startup. We're always adapting. We have a lot of new ideas that we're planning on implementing. A couple of them you kind of mentioned. Or physical products. That was actually one of our original profit model kind of ideas. And like Jason mentioned, like a PDF, for example, was one example of that. Everlove.com does a $10 PDF of a nice little printed out of someone's obituary, right? But I totally agree with you. There's a lot more places we can go with this that we've been thinking about, but we haven't really tried to focus on until we can just get out the simple beta version of the app. But it's definitely worth looking into. It's just, I think we got a little shot down with talking too much about money. Or like we used to have a slide literally talking about the profit model, but I do think there's a lot of opportunity though in everything you just said. Absolutely. Especially with families. That's the one thing that you mentioned that I really wanted to emphasize is the one biggest thing that I wanted us to reflect more in this presentation that we unfortunately didn't have enough time to was, again, with like the profit model and being presumably orienting ourselves to be bought out one day by Ancestry or 21andMe. The whole point around that is kind of what you were saying, a little different than just necessarily your kids and that kind of a QT product that makes parents' lives easier, but a little more grand scheme to connect families. Now, we're not necessarily going out here to advertise only to families. It's not only for families, but as far as getting new users, right? It's one of the easiest ways. Like I have, for example, an app called House Party that I talked to my friend, my family with, right? When one of us found it, the rest of us downloaded it like that, right? Like that, right? So I totally agree. There's a lot that we are looking into. There's just a lot we haven't been able to do because we've been focused on getting out the first version of the app though. But thank you.
Yeah, I agree with you. It makes sense to put out that app for free at the beginning, but are you considering maybe having different tiers where you have a free app and then you have a much better app that you might charge a very low monthly subscription fee?
I wouldn't say separate apps, but we were absolutely, that was one of the first and most common. I mean, in this day and age, subscription services are paramount and important. And absolutely, I wouldn't say again, like separate apps, not necessarily a separate Abio premium, but we were absolutely thinking about premium services. And we didn't exactly deliberate what would be premium, what wouldn't be. Again, because we've just had this focus on getting, the basic rundown, the basic features and the simple beta, and then adapting and kind of molding it a little more after that. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. It does. Have you also thought about, you mentioned the target was 25 to 40 year old millennials and the aging folks. But have you ever thought about maybe targeting people based on their faith? Because I could tell you folks from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would just love something like that because they're really big into families and they're really big into preserving family histories and things like that.
That is definitely thing we've thought of. I think, that's definitely because I used to go to church and I know that we had journaling all the time. So that could definitely be a potential, market to kind of look into.
That's a great idea. I'm not very religious, so I did not think much about that, but that is a great idea. Exactly though, the focus on community and a community already that seems to already enjoy writing specifically, or they do it as part of their faith. That's another amazing opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, one of the reasons I like this idea is because there are so many, like, right now you're focused on the aging millennials. As an aging millennial, I'm not used to being called aging.
Do you prefer dying?
No, but I think it's kind of fun to think about what else you could do with this app, right? I think, so to Kelly's point, I'm a brand new mom and Instagram is definitely like selling me on that like keepsake app, right? Because it would be a great, and for me, I am thinking about my own end, but I'm so much more interested in like telling my kid's story, or I have a grandmother, she's 91. I would love to find a way where maybe this would be a way for me to engage her, to try to get her to tell some of her story, right? And I think it goes along the same lines that you guys are thinking about community and preserving these stories. I would be curious to see if there is a way to kind of incorporate people being able to hear other people's stories as well, because I think that could really grow your market a whole lot.
How do you mean hearing other people's stories?
Oh, like, so for me, like I have my grandmother, right? She's 91. I go home every Sunday for dinner. She tells me stories, and sometimes I wish I had a place to jot it down, right? Or she said, in this year this happened. Maybe I could use your service to help document, those kinds of things as well.
That's the whole point, is right? Like your grandma could be on there.
Judges. Thanks, Abio. That's time for Q&A. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, finalists and judges. This concludes the competition portion of the program. So judges, please move to the breakout room to deliberate. The rest of us will wait for the judges to decide the placement of our winners. We want to allow audience members to ask questions. So if you have a question, please type it into the chat function, or feel free to raise your hand and take yourself off mute to ask the finalists directly. So while people think of questions, I'm going to throw one out there for all of you. Can you guys share with us how you came up with the names for your teams?
I'll go first if you want.
Okay, go ahead,
So,
Austin.
Yeah. So mine was about calming storms. So I thought about the story in the Bible where God calmed the storm. That was on the Sea of Galilee. So there you go, Project Galilee.
Great, thanks, Austin.
For us, we kept thinking about the most important factors, which sometimes are challenging to the construction industry in general. The most important one of them is the cost, so we left it till the end. And we started typing different factors, modeling, optimization, stuff like this, and started collecting some words. We actually had a bunch of other words, but we thought that Model C would be the best one of them.
Great.
I can do it, Jason, if you, yeah. So our name is, I think, a little less eloquent. It came simply from autobiography, bio, Abio, to put, I mean, because of course we can't just say Abio. You know, we wanted to put a little spin on it, a little bit of differentiation. So Abio is what we got.
Nice. I'm glad you explained it, because there was me before this competition started. I'm like, is it a bio? Is it a bio? So
No,
thank you
even
for
within
explaining.
our team, we had to get it consistent recently. You're not alone.
Great. So we have a question in the chat from Chris Liu. He's asking Austin, are there drones built already for this? Or do you have to build them?
They're not built yet. This is just a concept, but my next phase is, as you saw over there, it's the prototype is next. So we'll do a small scale prototype, make sure the technology works, go from there. Keep scaling up.
Okay, great. I got another question. It's also for you, Austin, so you're still in the hot seat. How would you bring 20,000 drones to a location with an imminent hurricane?
That is a good question. Well, they'd already be there. I'm planning on using decommissioned oil rigs. I'm going to turn them into drone launch platforms. That's, of course, a little bit further down the line. But yeah, that's the goal right now. Because I thought about putting them on ships, but that's just slow. So them already being there, that's probably the best idea. Each platform should hold a couple thousand drones, maybe 1,000, 2,000.
Okay, great.
Most efficient way.
Yeah. You have give it some thought. So another question for you, Austin. What materials are the drone built from to weather the storm?
Well, I'm actually still deciding, because aluminum is strong, but it's not as light. But carbon fiber is light, it's just not as strong. So if I could maybe combine the two, get some sort of, I don't know, hybrid aluminum, really light but really strong material, that's what I'd build it out of. I also thought about using 3D printing, so a 3D printable material would be nice too. That aids with mass production, and with on the scale that I want to go, you're going to need some of that mass production. With, you know, does that answer the question?
I think so. Okay. Thanks, Austin. So I have a question for Model C. What kind of testing has been done on the integrity of the construction material?
Actually, right now we are working on the research which compares the strengths of the newly developed recycled plastic concrete with the traditional concrete. It showed lots of potentials. Actually, we are hoping that this research will be published soon. But yes, up till now, the strengths of the new recycled plastic, of course, it's not the same as the traditional concrete, but it serves the same purpose because the design process has lots of other factors except other than the strengths. So regarding the integrity, we are still working on, we have already done some, ourselves and other colleagues of us has done laboratory tests regarding the strengths of the newly recycled plastic concrete, and it shows potential. So we are hope that it would be presented as soon as possible.
Okay, great. And, you know, I apologize if you guys said this during your presentation, but can you tell us a little bit more about kind of your backgrounds?
Okay, we are PhD students. Both of us are PhD students in the civil environmental engineering department. We completed our master's degree from Egypt. We are originally from Egypt. And before that, we completed also our bachelor degree from Egypt. Our master's degree, my master's degree were in construction engineering and management, and Amr's master's degree were in structural engineering.
Okay. And so did you folks develop the algorithm yourselves?
Yeah.
No. Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay. That's great.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. And let's go to, and I know I'm going to say it wrong, Abio.
I guess we'll just change our name. We'll just change our name. It's all good.
Just for today. Change it for
All good.
today.
Abio.
Abio. Okay. So Abio, for you folks, can you guys share with us a little bit about your backgrounds as well?
Sure. I'll go first, Jason. I'll leave to you. So
Right.
my name is Dylan, of course. I am currently an econ major, and I am originally from California. I transferred here after 2 years at CU Boulder, and I've changed my major many times, but they've all been pretty businessy. I love marketing. I love online business, and especially e-commerce, Shopify. That's like my passion. And yeah, now I'm just studying econ and looking at my love for business in a different way. If that makes sense.
Right. I'm Jason, econ major as well, so pretty businessy. I originally was from China, actually. Went to China for a bit, stayed at Russia for a bit. Our two team members that were going to be here, but unfortunately due to personal stuff, could not make it. Sarai is a computer science major from Boston University. Amy she is a engineering major from ASU. We are also working with Rifat, who is our lead programmer. He has a master's in computer science and has been developing iOS apps with Xcode and Swift UI, which me and Sarai are doing in tandem with him. And he's been developing those apps for 9 years, I believe. And he currently works as a senior software engineer at a company, but this is his project with him. Right.
Okay, nice. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Okay, there's a question for you folks, Model C. Are there any active projects using or trying your algorithm?
Actually, up till now, we were able of retrieving data from already completed projects with total cost and applying this as a case study for our model. Actually, our approach of investing is trying to motivate newly designed projects to implement our algorithm in order to gain the investment itself. But of course, the idea of gaining as much possible of case studies implemented in our model will increase the integrity and reliability of our model.
Okay, great. Let's see. So Dylan and Jason, with Facebook entering the metaverse, is there a room for your app to go there too?
Yeah, so I am certainly no expert on the metaverse. I've only recently, I've had last year, maybe understood what the whole meta term means, and I would certainly benefit from your definition of the metaverse. But presuming I do know what you're talking about, I think absolutely there's room. One of Asaf, our second mentor's biggest points was, which we both agreed with, we're not expecting widespread adoption here. We're not going to be the next Instagram or Snapchat. We're a lot more niche, right? Thinking about that, I think we can nestle in the giant, and of course it's a saturated market. There's a lot of social media giants that have a lot of the market, but at the same time, that allows smaller people sometimes with slightly differentiated products like our own to nudge our way in there. I think, of course, we're going to find out soon enough just how plausible that is. But I think absolutely yes.
The metaverse is a 3D world, right? That's kind of, I think that's what Facebook was talking about. The metaverse is like you actually put on goggles and go into a 3D world, like a virtual world.
As I said, I don't understand the metaverse.
Okay. I mean, if Chris wants to jump in, what does he say? Yes. He said, yes, it's like Ready Player One movie or Free Guy movie.
I think as of right now, we don't have any plans for going that route yet. We still want to first release the beta version of the app first and then go from there. But we definitely have plans for the future.
Okay, great. It looks like the judges have joined us. So we're ready to announce the result. I want to congratulate all of the finalists for having the courage to explore your ideas with us here. And I want to thank all of the coaches for helping them develop their ideas and prepare for tonight's event. All of you are already winners, but let's find out how you all placed. So in third place, taking home $1,000 is Galilee. Yay.
Great, Austin. Congrats.
Thanks.
So our second place winner, taking home $2,500, is Abio. Congratulations. Great job, Jason and Dylan. And now, so we all know our first prize winner is, with the $5,000 cash prize, is Model C. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Team Model C, and congratulations, all of the teams. You guys all did a wonderful job. These were really great, innovative ideas and all very different. So, we wish you all best of luck on your journey forward. We hope that you will continue on with PACE and participate in all of our other programs. And for all of you here,